Professor Franklin Nnaemeka Ngwu is an economist, chartered risk manager, and professor of strategic management and governance at Lagos Business School LBS Pan-African University, where he directs the public sector initiative. With over 2 decades of experience spanning academia, policy, and consulting, he has advised top institutions including the CBN, AFDB, GT Bank, Dangote Group, and UBA. A respected thought leader in corporate governance, risk management, and sustainable finance, Professor Ngwu has authored several influential books and leads national and international policy engagements. He also serves as co-chair of the UN SDG Private Sector Advisory Group and sits on multiple corporate and development boards.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Professor Franklin Nnaemeka Ngwu. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I hope we are happy to be here. For me, I'm very, very happy because it's about sustainability, it's about finance, it's about climate, it's also about LAPO Microfinance. Let me say that I've been a fan of what LAPO is doing for many years. There was a time they took me to Benin, and I was with the, it's not the bank, but the one that do other work. I've forgotten the name now. Yes, and we were there for 3 days looking at their risk management. And when I left Benin, I wanted to go back. And because if you see what they are doing, their commitment, their interest to help the society, you will know that it's a good institution. So on that note, I say a very, very big thank you to the founder of LAPO Microfinance for all the good work they are doing. So on that note, let me please stand on existing protocol. All your excellencies, the rep of Mr. Governor, you're highly welcome. Thank you for being here. But for all other important dignitaries, all other participants, good morning and my special greetings. It's very interesting what we are doing today in terms of looking at these issues of climate change, particularly in terms of climate finance. If you travel, if you use Côte d'Ivoire to travel from maybe here to Abidjan, and they have this chopper one that has propeller. It flies very low, and you fly across from Nigeria to Côte d'Ivoire, and you see what we have. And you begin to wonder, some of the issues that we are having, is it because we are not really rethinking the opportunities that we have in Africa? Or is it because that we have been, more or less, our mindset is a bit somehow? But today, we are looking at financing the future, the role of microfinance in achieving climate goals in Africa. And I wrote something down. But at the end of the day, you know, as a teacher, I find it very difficult to just come and read something. So I prefer to teach. So I hope you permit me that I'm going to teach you just for 30 minutes. And all of us will learn for 30 minutes as well. But let me also say that there will be no questions at the end of my lecture. That anything you don't understand, you come to Lagos Business School to find out more. So using this, we look at, So let me start my story with this interesting lady, Maria, in Borno State, who treks over 2, 3, 4 hours to get water, to cook, to water her farm, and to feed her family. Interestingly, after COVID, she got a loan of 200,000 to buy a solar-powered well. And with that solar-powered well, she's now able to feed her family, water her crops, and do other little businesses. And the story of her is the same thing with many other parts of Nigeria and many other parts of Africa. There are people trek for a long distance to get water to do certain things. And just with 200,000, everything changed. Interestingly, in some societies, it might not be the same thing. You know, some of you here, well, most of you here are very lucky. You are among the privileged Nigerians who will go back to your house, just turn a tap, and water will start running. But for majority of Nigerians and Africans, they have to trek to get water. So if we use this, Africa, in terms of the finance reality, we need about over $300 billion a year to address the climate issues we have in Africa. And then, decade need is about 2.5 trillion. Interestingly, what we are using, just about 3. So if we look at our total requirement, which is about 3 trillion, we are just getting about 1% of what we need. That means about 99% is yet to be received, or there's even no hope of receiving more than what we are receiving now. And our brother and former president of African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, he said that climate change is hitting Africa hard with droughts, flood, cyclones, and locust invasions. And as I said, when you travel, when you visit so many African countries, you see this. You know, let me also point out something. Nigeria, particularly, we are very blessed. So somebody was talking about that we've been removed from the Financial Action Task Force, from the gray list, and we are all celebrating. And as I said, it's like, you know, because we are so pampered, it's like a student that went to university, and they paid your school fees, they gave you a car as a student, and at the end of the day, you didn't fail, you failed some courses. And then they gave you a receipt, and you now took the receipt and passed some subjects. And the family started, you know, with drums and everything, celebrating you. The reason is because now we are so blessed in Nigeria that we are not witnessing the extreme issues about climate change. What is beginning to happen, because if you notice what happened in Maiduguri, I think last year, what happened in Niger State, and what happened in other parts of Nigeria, you know that this climate issue is real. And it's something that we are supposed to take very, very serious. The estimated losses that we have in Africa is about $289 to $440 billion. That is from climate issues. And this is threatening food security for about 1.4 billion Africans. Livelihood insecurity across Africa, and about 250 million people projected to face high water stress by 2030. So it's real. Even though I keep emphasizing that in Nigeria, we are more blessed as compared to other countries. Using this, we look at impact by region. So this is Eastern Africa, bringing the odds of drought. So you can see what is going on here. Then if we move from Eastern Africa, we look at Western Africa, which I mentioned, I talked about what happened in Maiduguri, what happened in Niger State. You know, the Lagos one is more or less, we are used to it. I'm sure we understand. So water and Lagos people, we don't complain again. It's just a normal, it's like going to church on Sunday. It comes every season and it disappears and we live back again. Sometimes we even use Keynote to go to work and it's fine. But when it happens to other parts of West Africa, it's serious because it's not something they're used to. And I'm sure we also know that in Nigeria, these things are happening even in some places that had never happened before. So we are now having floods in areas that never expected flood, and they are not prepared for it. And most of the time, they will tell us that our brothers in Cameroon have released water from a dam in Cameroon. And the question is, how come that every year they're releasing this water? And every year, we seem to be unprepared about this water being released. And it's happening almost on yearly basis now. If we leave West Africa, we look at Northern Africa and water scarcity and rising temperature. So while in West Africa, we are facing flooding, erosion, and all that, in Northern Africa is more of water scarcity. If we move from Northern Africa, we look at Central Africa. It's the same thing. So you find out that across Africa, the issues are, different sites or different issues for different regions. In some areas, you are looking for water. In some areas, there is no water. In some areas, the water is too much. In some areas, it's drought. It's different issues. But all of them are climate challenges. The question is, what do we do about this? Then when climate impacts hit home, this is what you see, flooding everywhere. And so this is Borno State, I said earlier on. And then what should microfinance do? Microfinance, actually, they're already doing it. They can turn vulnerability into what we call resilience. Because I also, in Lagos Business School, I was in charge of the Sustainability Center for about 3-4 years. And during that period, our engagement, even I still part of what they do, what microfinance institutions, NGOs, and other organizations are doing in Nigeria, I keep advocating and encouraging them to report it. Let people know what they're doing. Because sometimes we don't appreciate the size of the problem that we are facing in Nigeria and how these little organizations are contributing. What is then required is how do we engineer proper partnership, proper cooperation, just as what we are doing today, so that we understand the enormity of the problems and see how we can properly partner to address the challenges. So if we use this, the same our brother, former president, Akinwumi Adesina, said that Africa worsening drought called for urgent climate finance and support. So microfinance and other institutions are already addressing the issue through agriculture, supporting the small farm holder, water, energy. A bit of digression. So an NGO in Ghana helped a community to get water, but they cited the water very close to the community. So when they did an evaluation, the communities, the youths, said that they are not very happy with where they cited the borehole. And we asked them why. They said that since this borehole was cited, that marriages have gone down in that community, interaction gone down, relationship gone down. So what it means is that sometimes, even when we are trying to intervene, it's good to do proper engagement with the society to properly understand what they need. So using this, we look at understanding climate finance. What does it really mean? Climate finance is more or less funding to reduce and adapt to effects of climate change. And key areas include mitigation and what? Adaptation. In Africa, as I'm going to show shortly, about 60% of what we need mitigation. The remaining percent is adaptation. But the main area and focus that we're supposed to be looking at is how do we mitigate climate challenges and climate risk? So what does climate change look like? So one is green agricultural loan, climate adaptation credit, livelihood diversification, renewable energy loans, and all that. If I go further, we now look at mitigation and funding includes, one, clean technologies, renewable energy, forest restoration, and carbon sinks. How can we, with institutions like LAPO, coordinate and synergize with other microfinance institutions, NGOs, to be able to increase the size of the loan that they give out? Because at the end of the day, there is an agency in Bangladesh, not Remy Bank, but what they did is to start supporting women And from supporting women to go into agriculture with loan, they're now supporting them to go into education, to go into health, and it becomes a total package for the society and for the family. And you know that once women are empowered, the society becomes empowered. Using this, we look at flood-proof roads, climate-smart schools, resilient infrastructure, safe learning environments. All these areas, we can spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour discussing these different issues. But I believe that all of you here, for you to come for this conference, they say that you are an expert or near an expert, so you understand the issues very, very well. So, but the question that we are focusing today is on how do we get sustainable finance for these areas. And I keep emphasizing that it cannot be done by one institution. It has to be done through collaboration. We are happy that CBN is here. We are happy that the government is here. We are happy that also the other microfinance institutions are here. And interestingly as well, Lagos Business School is here. So we'll be there to help, to support, to engage, to ensure that at the end of the day, we have a better outcome with regards to addressing these climate issues for Nigeria and for Africa. Let me also emphasize that nobody will do it for us. If we are waiting for maybe World Bank or somebody in Netherlands or somebody in Finland or any place to come and do it, we are making a mistake. We have to start. If, for instance, as my brother, rep of the governor said, that the Dutch people decide to come and support what we are doing, then that's good. But we cannot wait for people to come and help us to start addressing these issues. Using this, we look at mitigation and adaptation. As I said earlier on, in terms of mitigation, is about 60-something% of what we need. Transport, about, would I say, about 58%. Energy, about 24%. Industry, about 7%. In terms of adaptation, in terms of the needs, agriculture, as you can see, about 10%. Water, about 17%. Infrastructure and building, about 12%. And disaster preparedness, about 25%. So the question I keep emphasizing is how do we come together and rethink some of these things and say, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, you focus on this area, this one focus on this area, this one focus on this area to achieve a better outcome. In terms of African climate goals, the key areas remain adaptive capacity and risk management, low emission and climate resilient development, resource mobilization and technology access, inclusion, cooperation, and ownership. From these African areas, we now look at where Nigeria is. Our focus in Nigeria is, 1, to reduce GHG emissions by 32% by 2035, expand renewable energy to 52% of electricity generation by 2025, strengthen climate adaptation across agriculture, water, health, infrastructure, and ecosystem, and then empower women, youth, and MSME with green finance, education, and just transition participation. So these are areas that Nigeria has agreed to focus on for now. It doesn't mean that we have covered all the areas, but at least let's focus on this and now use it to scale up to other areas that we believe are required and necessary for us to be able to address the climate change. If we use this, it's a microfinance is an essential catalyst of climate resilience, but it remains a mystery for most. And this is for climate investment funds. So let me read it again. It says microfinance is an essential catalyst of climate resilience, but it remains a mystery for most. I'm sure that if you understand what microfinance institutions do across the world, in Africa and in Nigeria, this will resonate with you. In the sense that the people that they cater for are the ones that are most affected by climate issues. It then means that if they cater for those that are most affected for climate issues, they remain a fulcrum for resolving or solving most of the climate challenges that we are facing in Nigeria and Africa. So let me point out some of the areas that we think that what microfinance can do. So one is last mile reach to climate vulnerable populations. In my engagement with microfinance institutions, the people that they serve, as I said earlier on, in terms of the bottom of what we call the bottom of the pyramid, those unable to afford the basic necessities of life, water, health, food, and all that. And they provide soft loans, engagement, education, training to these people to address some of these issues. So it means that if the climate issue that we are talking about affect these people, it means that microfinance can actually be a very, very important tool in addressing climate challenges. The second one is that there is a serious a higher relationship cutting across between microfinance institutions and Nigerians or even Africans. The reason being as well that microfinance institutions are in the communities. They relate more with the people, they interact more, they understand their needs, and of course, they build trust. And somebody said that if you compare formal finance institutions and informal finance institutions, you find out that the non-performing loans in informal finance institutions significantly lower than formal finance institutions. And the main reason is because of trust. And interestingly, informal finance institutions, they don't have central bank, they don't have NDIC, they don't have all the regulatory agencies in the financial institutions. All they have regulating that area is trust. It means that, and of course, microfinance can be described as a quasi or in between formal big banks and then informal institutions. That trust that we have in informal finance, given the way microfinance functions, they have that relationship and trust. So it means that if we want to address these issues of climate issues, and it has to be done by us and by the people at the bottom of the pyramid, microfinance stands a very big role to address it. And of course, again, financial inclusion and climate action. When we talk about financial inclusion, the main institution that can help us is what? Microfinance as well. It means, at the same time, if there is a link between financial inclusion and climate issues, microfinance are also the people who can do it. And of course, agility and innovation. Because microfinance interact with the communities, they're able to understand their needs and their problems, and we're able to now say, okay, this is the best solution that they can use to address these particular issues. And of course, we remember there's a microfinance institution in Senegal. It manages a loan portfolio of approximately $27 million. And with this, they are able to provide services to about 77,000 borrowers, 78% of whom are women. And mobile money services in sub-Saharan Africa, in Komoko in South Sudan. So there are so many of them. M-Pesa, we also have our sister here, in terms of what they are doing in Nigeria. We also have Oga Godwin, in terms of what Lapo is doing. So there are instances, there are outliers of success that they have done. What is now required is the synergy to bring all of them to, and everything, we can now say that we are achieving a better outcome. So in terms of what we can, bringing it together, is a livelihood-centered resilience, empowering people beyond infrastructure. And we've talked about microloans. Example is Bangladesh. They boosted resilience and sustained microfinance profitability. And I'm sure we can also confirm that microfinance, the impact on the society, particularly in Nigeria and other parts of Africa, can be said to be in ascendance. What is the path forward? The path forward is that we can leverage on digital tools, technology, to achieve what we want to achieve. I was doing something for an insurance organization, and they said that the way for insurance is using technology to now insure Nigerians. They're also talking about term insurance. If you talk to hospitals, they say it's technology. If you talk to transport, they say it's technology. It means that the way forward for us to actually advance what microfinance can do is to apply technology to microfinance. And, of course, piloting climate smart products, and, of course, again, building what we call strategic partnership. So this is government, these are multilateral development institutions, and these are community leaders. And of course, when we talk multilateral development institutions, it includes all financial institutions and all that and all that. When they all come together, we should be able to have a better outcome. So in conclusion, it's saying that microfinance is not just about credit, it's about financing the future, empowering communities, and safeguarding the planet. And the time to act is now. As I said earlier on, please, there are no questions. If you don't understand anything, you know where to go. Lagos Business School. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very insightful session.